recording, and like that's all I can think. I cannot do anything more. So if I say get, right, so basically like what I was trying to explain here, few of the interview questions here, I'm just repeating stuff here. So there are two ways of loading the data. So one is with using a get, the other one is using load. So which one is better? It's normally recommended to use get because it will just give you back a null value, whereas what happens with the load is going to throw a exception saying unique ID not found. So that is one of the interview question, and normally it's recommended to use get. So whenever you read any data from your database, right, for each and every row that you read or whatever you're gonna do the transaction, basically you can lock that records. So how do you do that locking the records? Basically you can see here like whatever I'm showing here in this screen, the syntax, it's like whenever I'm doing a get or load, basically what it means, like these are the few parameters that I can pass. So it takes these other things like serializable argument and class args and lock mode. So basically like lock mode, what it says is like what type of lock you want to put it. So there are 4 types of locks. One is none. So it means that whenever you're trying to read any data, you're not having any lock on that particular record. Whenever you have a lock mode equal to basically read, so in that case what it does is it prevents someone trying to read the data. Whenever you have a lock mode equal to upgrade, so basically if someone tries to read, or like whenever someone tries to write anything or update the data of that particular record, it doesn't let him do that, and it will basically put them into wait. So there is something called upgrade underscore no wait. So whenever you have upgrade underscore no wait, basically it immediately returns back a error message saying like I'm not gonna accept or I'm not gonna honor anything. So that these are the 4 different types of lock modes that you have. So this is one thing.
Read, upgrade, no wait.
None.
None.
Show that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lock mode is, I think it should be a lock mode equal to new.
So if we say session dot get and the product, the entity, then if we specify the lock mode like this, then it won't allow the user to perform any actions based on the lock mode that we give. Is that right?
Yes.
But if we do a get, right, we have to set the lock mode, right, basically.
That's what I'm gonna do here. I can specify a lock mode. You can see here I have a none, read, upgrade, no wait. These were the standard up to 3.4, and now they have added, I think 3.2, I think. Now they have something called write and force also has been added. Even I was not aware of this. So now, yeah, there are 2 more now. So you also have force, and other one is write. I'm not sure of force and write, but upgrade and no wait, these are the 4 different things. So uses the no wait keyword for Oracle, which returns an error immediately if there is another thread using that row. Otherwise, this is similar to the upgrade. So in upgrade, what you do, uses the select for update SQL syntax to lock the data until the transaction is basically finished. So I think in that case, like force is like you would not allow someone to forcefully try to grab the, or whenever someone tries to, maybe I'm just guessing, whenever someone tries to force and tries to grab the lock, so in that case like basically you be going with force. I think so. I'm not very much sure of that. Just to refer the documentation of Hibernate. The best thing to refer would be like go to the Java site, wherein like for each and every attribute, like they have given clear example, like they have clearly mentioned like for each and every lock mode what each lock mode does, everything like that. You can just check that also. So also there is something called flush that we were talking about yesterday. So what is that like flush? So basically whenever you want to save some data into the session, or whenever you want to persist some data as in your code, like we were seeing, right? Like we had two things like that. Here you can see I have something called that flush. So what flush basically does is it clears that session cache and tries to commit the data. So whenever you say session.save, it doesn't automatically write that information into the database. Like, so that is the reason normally you have something called session.flush. So flush method forces the Hibernate to flush the session content into the database. So that is one use of using the flush method. There are 4 different modes that you have for flush. So these are like basically you can set the flush modes equal to always, auto, commit and never. So these are the 4 different flush methods or a flush. It takes that arguments wherein you can set the flush mode to always. So whenever you have set the flush mode equal to always, so each and every query that you try to say, like you have something in this within this particular session, open and close, you have multiple objects that you want to process. So in that case, basically, if the flush mode is set to always, after executing each and every save or anything, it automatically tries to flush the contents. So that is with whenever the mode is equal to always. Every query flushes the session before the query is executed. So that is always. So auto, there is something called auto. So what does that auto do? Hibernate manages the query flushing to guarantee that data returned by query is up to date. So basically you are not gonna do that session.flush automatically. Like if the flush mode is set, it automatically takes care of it. Commit. So whenever you have that commit, so that time automatically the flush mode will automatically trigger and it will commit the contents. So that is commit. Never is you don't want to flush it at all. Like you don't want to flush it. Like whenever it happens, let it happen. So that is with respect to flush. What is that? Flush. So how do you check what is the flush mode and what is the how do you want to set the things? So basically,
Is by default one the never one?
which one?
Is by default the flush
Yes,
mode is
never.
set to never?
So Hibernate never flushes the session by itself. Yes.
Okay.
So how do you do that? Like there is something called session dot get flush mode. So basically this is the one which is gonna tell you like what is the flush mode, and if at all you want to set the flush mode, basically you need to pass the argument. So what is that argument? Flush mode dot. So you get these are the 4 different flush mode, 5 different flush modes that you have. Always, auto, commit, never. Manual is something added newly. So this was not there earlier. So something has been added newly. So earlier we used to have only 4 things: always, auto, commit and never. So now they have added this manual also. So yeah. So you can set the flush mode, and for this particular session that you are creating, this would be the flush mode, or whichever you want, like always, auto, commit, manual, never. By default it would be never. So this is one stuff that you need to know with respect to flushing the contents. There is also something called the refresh. So when do you need to do a refresh? So basically refresh is nothing but like whenever you want to refresh the contents. So you have some data within that particular session, and like you want to refresh the content, say like whatever is there in the database, or you want, like you don't want to save the content. Maybe you have created a new instance and like, or you try to do a get. Once after you doing a get, maybe the data becomes stale because someone may try to write into that particular record or update that record. So in that case, like you want to have something like very much accurate. So in that case, like what you do is there is something called refresh. So there is operation called refresh, session.refresh. Whenever you say session.refresh, automatically basically the data whatever, or that object whatever is already in that session, will get synced up with the database tables or the records, and the latest data that is there in the records will get automatically updated into your object. So that way you are in sync with whatever is there in the database. So that is nothing but refresh. So that is one more thing. So how do you refresh the data? Basically use that refresh operation and we can do the refresh. Also refresh basically takes that lock mode again. So you can also pass all the different lock modes. You can have, whenever you're trying to refresh the data, you can put a log from someone else reading that particular data, or someone trying to write the data or modify the data. So that is one thing. How do you delete the records? So if at all you want to delete a record, similar to how we have something called session.save, you also have something called delete. So basically using a delete and whatever object, basically object will again have, like, how do you have that object? Basically you can set the data like ID or anything like that, or you can read the data from a record based on some primary ID, and by doing a get or by doing a load, you will be able to read the record. So once you read that record or that particular record, that record will be basically stored in the object, or like if at all I am using a product, so then basically that would be stored as part of a product object. So now I say selection.delete on that product, what will happen? That particular record will automatically get deleted in the database. So each and every record is actually mapped into this particular object, right? So that is the reason it automatically, whenever you say delete, that record will get deleted. So whenever
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, this is regarding the working of Hibernate. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking. All right. Now, suppose I'm having a Tomcat web server that is connected to a Hibernate, right? And suppose two clients are connected.
I didn't get that. Hold on. Tomcat server which is connected to Hibernate. What? Okay.
I mean, the JSP page is connected to. The model is connected to the Hibernate queries.
Yes.
Okay. And suppose two clients are accessing the same pages from two locations. All right.
Yes.
And okay, now both the users are performing, suppose, insert.
Okay.
And both are inserting the same record.
Okay.
How is Hibernate able to handle both the sessions separately?
Hibernate is not handling any of the session, right? This session is only like for connecting to your database. This session is not the same that like what the UI is looking for, right? So UI is, or the Tomcat server or the web server or application server, whichever maintains a session from the UI or the JSP or the user session, that user session is different, and whatever we have here, this session is completely different. This session is basically for writing the record into the database. Okay. So when, if at all like someone wants, or like say two people trying to fill some form, and if both of them try to submit the same thing, so in any case, right, when you try to submit that particular page, you invoke that particular business implementation class, and when that particular business implementation class is invoked, each person trying to invoke it will create a new session, right?
Yeah.
So when each form or each user tries to submit it, if at all worst case scenario, like even at a like whatever, that million second or whatever it is, at that time like both submit same time, so either like one person will get that error message saying record is already inserted, or you're trying to create a duplicate, or that's the only thing like that I can think of, because the sessions that you create for writing into the database is completely different, and whoever gets the first access, he will, like whichever user will be able to click that submit page first. So basically what happens, he creates that for him, the business class or the business implementation classes will create the first instance of that session, and he will be able to successfully write into the database. The other one will not be able to do that, because he will get back an error message saying that duplicate record, and the same error message would be sent forward to your UI.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. And the other thing is, okay, now you said.
Actually, I want to say something related to this. Actually, I want to ask us, shall we, we have synchronized keyword, right? Shall we synchronize the object or the, the method which is using the database queries and all that?
But that will affect the performance, right? Because all these, suppose I'm having 10 different users.
How many times you are like, say, if at all you are creating some web-based application, you want to synchronize. How many times, like for how many people, like if at all like 1,000 people are gonna access it, so what are you gonna synchronize? Like if at all you synchronize, everyone will like be in a queue, right? Because if one thread is executing at that point of time, say one user, you are allowing him to access that particular business implementation. So around like say at 1 second, like maybe like 900 people try to simultaneously access it. So what will happen to your application? What will happen to your that server? If at all
But it is better than get an error than
no, it is not, right?
we can,
So,
the browser can for some time.
say whenever, okay, example in your case, say you try to create a new Gmail account or something like that, inserting a record, okay?
Yeah.
How many times like do you think maybe like the piece, how many people will try to insert the same record? A simple example. So in that case, like, do you think making synchronized is a better option, or you gonna wasting your system resources, or frankly speaking, your application server, if at all you get a request like 100 requests or 1000 requests per second, your application server will go down if at all you are using a synchronized block over there. It will go within fraction of minutes.
Okay.
And like you say, like, okay, simple thing is like, okay, a farm where two people try to fill in the same information, like probability wise, like how many times like do you think that could happen? It might happen based on your applications, but still, right, like instead of making your system to go down with all out of memory, it's better like either do something like from a JSP perspective. What you can do is either you can make a AJAX call wherein like before someone tries to submit that form, do a validation. AJAX is nothing but like asynchronous JavaScript call wherein like you run, like as soon as you fill in some information on that particular text box or something like that, as soon as you go to the next tab or something like that, or what happens, or as soon by the time like whatever you are typing, say like you type Apple, so each character you type, someone tries to type in, you will be making a backend call trying to see like whether that record already exists or not. So that's how like normally these days, like how does that Google suggest works, wherein like as soon as you start typing something like app, you'll get all those list of recommendations for you. How does that work? So all those things basically they are making a backend call, and again that is gonna go check in the database. That's how like everything is working currently. So it's rather you put it onto the backend servers to deal with connecting to the database and trying to figure out than like and then throw error message rather than making the synchronized.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
John, you were also telling something. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Tirumalesh, I just got a message from Madhav,
Okay.
and he said his system is just crashed.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so yeah, so he just told to inform you. Yeah.
All right, no problem.
Okay, yeah, he has sent you an email, it seems.
Okay, I'll check that.
Okay, and yeah, now one more thing. Okay, okay. Now I know I'm just going a little bit out of topics, but then I'm just thinking how to do it. Okay, now suppose we are having 10 client applications or 3 client applications. Okay, now it's like a standalone application, not a web-based system. Suppose
3 different applications complete.
yeah, it's a standalone application.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Okay. What do you think is the best approach for this 3 application to connect directly to a database or through a server or through an application server?
Connect directly to the database.
So each client will be having its own connection to the database directly.
No, what? Make it clear here. You say client, so client is who?
The client is okay. The client is a client is like suppose okay now I'm
Client
having an
is
application.
client a user like me?
Yeah, it's user like V3 suppose,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And we are having a say Swing application, okay, which is a standalone application,
Okay.
right? Okay, and